So everyone, we're going to get started now. Thank you for coming to our presentation, the Town of Harwich Open Space and Recreation Plan. My name is Allie Sabatino. I'm the town planner.
I'm Amy Usowski. I'm the Conservation Administrator.
And we also do have David Spitz on the slide as well. He was the previous town planner, and he also did a lot of work before he retired on this plan. So our first slide is the history and purpose of the Open Space Recreation Plan. So it was first adopted in 1998, and this is the second update of the plan. The first update was completed in 2010. So why is this plan so important? It's important because it makes the town eligible for grant money, which is extremely important. And it also lays out a plan for land management. So what's incorporated in the open space plan? There are a few previous plans that are put in here. So the 2011 comprehensive plan and also the 2013 comprehensive wastewater management plan. And I'll cite those later on in the presentation. So the plan, it assesses open space and recreation needs of the town. It includes a statement of goals, objectives, and it also has an action plan to how to accomplish those goals and objectives.
2010 was the last revision of the Open Space and Recreation Plan. The first one was done in 1998, so now we're on our second revision to that. Since then, we've had a number of accomplishments, and so here's a couple of them. We now have a priority list of new acquisitions that was put together by the Real Estate and Open Space Committee, Planning Board and Department, and the Conservation Department, as well as other individuals and committees in the town helped with that. And we also now have a checklist to evaluate new parcels when they become available, or even before they become available. We stress connectivity with other conservation lands. That's one of the criteria. I'm going to go over more of the criteria later on. Since 2010, we've acquired 9 new parcels with 57 new acres of conservation land, and we'll talk a little bit about those parcels, a couple of those parcels coming up. We also have 2 new land management plans. Back in 2013, the Conservation Commission hired the BSC group to put together land management plans for the Island Pond Conservation Area and the Bell's Neck Conservation Lands. Basically, they went out to the site weekly for a year, documented conditions, and made recommendations on how to better manage those lands, both for public enjoyment and for natural resource quality and character. We also have a 10-parcel stewardship report for our other conservation lands in town. This is less detailed than the land management plan, but still gives ideas to the Conservation Commission and guidance on how to manage their parcels and what priorities there are for management on those parcels. The Muddy Creek Bridge was funded, planned, and implemented since the 2010 plan. We're in our first year of monitoring afterwards, which is very exciting. We also have a new habitat type since the last iteration of the Open Space and Recreation Plan. We now have sandplain, grassland, heathland habitat in town, in part due to management efforts. We also have critical habitat for North American cottontail in the northwestern part of town in the Robbins Pond Conservation Area. And another accomplishment that we've had that Allie will talk a little bit about, or is talked about more in the actual plan itself, is making town-owned parcels, especially beaches and other recreational areas, more handicap accessible.
Okay, so goals and objectives of the 2017 Open Space and Recreation Plan. I'm going to read verbatim off of this slide because these are our goals and objectives, and Amy's going to go into them in more detail in the next slides coming up. So the first one is strategic acquisition of environmentally sensitive properties. The second one is optimal production of the town's natural resources. The third is protection and enhancement of the town's character. And the third is development of village centers. And like I said, Amy will go into those in more detail later in the presentation.
We thought this slide was important because it gives you an overall view of the open space in town. Now, this is an incomplete map. We are working with the Cape Cod Commission to create a more up-to-date one since the past year. Actually 2 years, because this map was last used in 2015. So some parcels, the Hall property, as well as the 49 acres Harwich Conservation Trust property in East Harwich are not shown on here, but it gives you an idea of where and how much open space we actually do have in the town of Harwich. It shows you the Hawks Nest State Forest. It shows you town conservation parcels in the lighter pink. It shows you in the darker pink to purple the Conservation Trust properties. It even has the golf courses on here. Golf courses are considered open space. And we will be updating this as soon as we get an update from the Cape Cod Commission of that map. That will be the map that goes into the final submission of this. So since 2010, we've acquired some very key pieces. Real Estate and Open Space Committee has been very key in identifying and putting these forward to the selectmen and the townspeople. Very supportive of overall acquisition of open space parcels in town. We acquired the Downey property, which is adjacent to Saquatucket Harbor, and currently we're looking at how to utilize that parcel for harbor purposes. The Verrocchi property, which is on the Herring River, heading into the West Reservoir. Also on that lower map on the bottom left, it doesn't show it, but we now own the last piece of land around the West Reservoir in the northwest corner. That should be shaded green. It's 4 new acres. That's the new Hall property that we acquired last year. Here's a picture of what the concept of the Muddy Creek Bridge would look like. Haven't been able to get a good picture of what it looks like now. Every time I go down there, I forget my camera. But, and also of note, let's see, Downey, Verrocchi, Hall. No, I wanted to mention Hall. So those are the key acquisitions and projects in the town. Now we're going to go into goals. A large portion of the town open space and recreation plan is dedicated to goals. So first of all, because again, as Ally said, I'm going to read the goal is actually verbatim because this is how they're written in the plan, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail. Goal 1 of the open space and rec plan is to maintain an inventory of existing town-owned property and identify appropriate uses. We're updating our current inventory and maintaining our GIS system. Software has come a long way since 2010, so in addition to county commission software, our abilities in-house to do some work, as well as the state software, we've really been able to update our system. And also, our other goal, another sub-goal, is identify existing and potential uses for parcels. That's something the Real Estate and Open Space Committee is really looking at hard right now, is looking at existing parcels that we do have and seeing what the potential use would be for them. Goal number 2, implement land management plans for existing conservation parcels. Our existing ones, aside from the 2 that we've accomplished in the past few years, prior to that, we had a land management plan for Thompson's Field Conservation Area. So we now have a total of 3 land management plans. Within the next round, it would be our goal to get land management plans completed for Robbins Pond Conservation Area, which is in the northwest part of town, and the Isabel Smith Monomoy River Woodlands in the east part of town on Pleasant Bay. And the implementation is a critical piece. Whenever we do management of town conservation parcels, we look to those documents to make sure we're doing it in the right way. We actually look beforehand before doing them. An example of that is the work right now that's happening at Thompson's Field, is on the 39 side of Thompson's Field, the recreation of the sandplain grassland heathland by the removal of the thicket of pitch pines and scrub oaks that are there. And due to that management, we've actually seen a species of special concern, a new butterfly, which is only found in one other place on the Cape. It's called the hoary elfin. And it's a butterfly about the size of your fingernail, but it likes sandplain grasslands and heathlands, and it's only found in Wellfleet and now Harwich. So there's a method to our madness out there. I want to get that out there. Goal number 3 is identify future open space acquisitions. This goes back to our earlier slide that talked about a priority list. The previous town planner, David Spitz, Ally, the real estate and open space, conservation and planning, we all keep an eye out not only for parcels that are now available, but what could be available in the future. We also have a list of criteria. There was a rating sheet that was developed in 2012, so since the last iteration of this plan. It asks things such as, what is the total acreage of the parcel? Is there public roadside access? Does it link to other conservation lands? Are there any other outstanding, unusual, scenic, natural, or historic resources? Is that parcel financially feasible to acquire? So when a parcel becomes available, the Real Estate and Open Space Committee in the town, we look at these criteria to rate the parcels, especially important when you have multiple parcels to consider. Oh. And 4, enhance trail systems within the open space areas. I have to give the Trails Committee a lot of credit for this. The Harwich Trails Committee, each member is essentially assigned to a conservation area, and they go out some daily, some weekly, look at the trails, prune where need be, pick up garbage, make notes about any issues. So I can actually say this goal is being accomplished, so we can hope we can continue that in the future. Continue. Where am I? 1-5. Goal number 5, protection of natural resources and community character through growth management strategies. This again is related to linkages of conservation lands, picking parcels because they make sense for contiguous open space, which is critical to be actual habitat for species, as well as some planning. It's also a planning strategy. Goal number 6, preserve and enhance the following natural resources: groundwater, surface water, coastal water and adjacent shorelines, inland and coastal wetlands, and wildlife and plant habitats. Very much in line with what the Conservation Commission does in preserving wetland resources in their buffer zones. Preservation of land is a key way to preserve your groundwater and surface water quality. Goal number 7, management of the handling and disposal of solid hazardous waste products. This goes into working with the DPW and transfer station to make sure we have just certain disposal days for hazardous waste products, making sure that trash collection and that it's available and feasible. Do you have anything to add to that one? Okay. Goal 8, preserve and enhance unique natural and man-made features and resources. Something unique to Harwich, especially when this comes to mind, is cranberry bogs. As of the last iteration of this, we had about 200 acres of cranberry bogs here in Harwich, a lot of which have since gone fallow. So finding ways that we can preserve not only the land, but our heritage and history, and to enhance this somewhat and becoming even more so unique natural and man-made feature. Also in line, this takes into account our salt marshes, our kettle ponds, things that are unique to Cape Cod. Goal 9, preserve and enhance opportunities for passive and active recreation to meet the needs for both residents and visitors. And this goes back for conservation, this is trails, making sure there's parking areas to trails, making sure trails are available, kept well. It also is the beaches, making sure that we have accessibility to all of our beaches, plenty of parking. We keep our beaches well. We abide by our beach management plans to make sure they're both ecologically and, let's say visually, trying hard to find a word, sustainable, I guess. In 2015, we put out a survey in town. We got more responses than any other survey that I think we've put out. We got 379 responses. We put it online, we put it at the community center, we put it at the town library, shoved them down people's throats. It is not a scientific survey, because, I mean, we did email a lot of board members and tell you to distribute it to your friends. So it is not it's not a blind survey, it's not scientific. However, it was very well, there was a lot of responses. So there was a great increase from past surveys. One of the key questions was, should the town continue to acquire and preserve open space and natural areas? We already have a lot of open space and conservation areas. And what's really hard, and what we've been striving to do, is to maintain that. We wanted to know if the townspeople wanted us to continue to acquire more. Acquisition of open space has always been very well received at town meeting. We've always been very fortunate in order to be able to acquire the open space that we've requested of the town in conjunction with the Harwich Conservation Trust, who's been a key player in this. 85% of the people on that survey said it was very important that the town continue to acquire and preserve open space and natural areas. 10% said important, 5 were neutral or not important. So a very large percentage, as you can see, said it was very important. And of those people, the important types of land protection, everyone said the protection of groundwater. Well, 99% of you did. Protection of groundwater, drinking water, and watersheds. 96% said wildlife habitat areas were important. 90% said around ponds and lakes.
Okay, thank you, Amy. I'm going to bring this presentation home now with the last 2 slides. So, all right, so growth and development patterns. How is that portrayed in this plan? So we're hoping to seek a balance between the open space and developed land. And how were we going to do that? We pulled from the 2000 comp plan some of the goals that were in there. So one of them was to adopt a no net change. The next was to encourage transfer of development rights. So basically what this means is to shift development from more sensitive areas such as wetlands to less sensitive areas. It also recognizes that change and growth are natural and they're healthy for a town and community. To allow more residents to live near and help support local businesses, and with that to provide public facilities with public amenities in growth centers. So what's outlined in the 2007, so this iteration, 2017, I know that says 2016, but 2017 Open Space and Recreation Plan. So we're hoping to place growth in mixed-use centers, encourage stronger cluster provisions in the Six Ponds District, and balance growth with open space protection. So how are we going to do that? Some ways are to continue acquisition of open space, like Amy said, since the 2010 plan. We've acquired 9 new parcels with 57 plus new acres, so that's great. Also restrictions on municipal land that's appropriate for conservation, and also to research and establish title for owners unknown land, which there are many of those parcels on the Cape in Harwich. So.
Okay, so this was a presentation essentially of updates since the last plan. The document is very large, so this was only a brief view of that. But at this time, we'd like to take any questions that you might have.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Linda Sabula from the Planning Board. I have a question, which is, we have been talking about the owner's unknown, and somebody has to do something about it for at least 15 years. What exactly is it that the plan is going to be? I mean, it keeps being discussed. Nobody does anything because there either isn't any money, there isn't any time, nobody's responsible for it. So how exactly are you going to flesh out that goal?
That is a great question, Linda. I will look into that in more detail for you. I understand that that's something that's important, so I will figure that out for you, unless Jim knows.
Well, I don't actually know the complete answer to that question, but I did want to make some comments that I think may help at least a direction in finding out. In order to deal with the owner's unknown property, the town first has to do title on that property. Because what would be the most direct path at using that property, whether it be for conservation or other town purposes, would be an acquisition by the town. Now, if it's truly owner's unknown property, then the town could feel safe in doing an eminent domain taking without fear of litigation. However, in order to get to that comfort point, the town needs to do title. Now, my understanding, and again, I've only been in town for 3.5 years, so this probably goes way back before I came here, but there was some money set aside to do some title work on the owner's unknown property, a number of years ago, but due to some issue which I'm not aware of, that money wasn't spendable, and I'm not sure what has happened to that money. It was about $50,000. Now, that would at least get a start, because you would have to hire either a title company or a real estate attorney in order to do that. So I think the first step would be to look into exactly where and if that $50,000 still exists. If it doesn't, what other potential sources of funding would there be to do title? And start prioritizing the owner's unknown property as to what would be most valuable to the town, and start doing the title work on those pieces of property.
I have laryngitis, but I'll talk anyway. Kathy Green, Real Estate and Open Space Committee. Just rest assured that the prioritizing of owners' unknown properties has been at the top of our agenda every single meeting for probably the last 18 months. And we have been working on it. We have tried to make inroads to spend that money. And as you know, the money actually isn't lost. It's the 50,000 is sitting in the administrative expense bucket of CPC, of CPA, the CPA fund. So it's there. The process to get it is a little bit different now. So, for example, we have a parcel right now that we're very, very interested in, and it's an owner's unknown. We're sending a letter to the Board of Selectmen to get their support to get the funding from CPA funds for the title work. And that's the best we can do. Real estate and open space is really just advisory. So we can advise away, but if nobody takes it from there, I don't know what else to say, so.
Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, any actual acquisition, as Kathy mentioned, real estate and open space can certainly advise, but any acquisition would have to be authorized by town meeting.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
And certain boards, such as the Conservation Commission, we would write letters of support to the selectmen for such acquisitions and support.
I guess part of my question, this is all nice discussion. However, who in town administration is going to be responsible for this? And that is a question really to the town administrator. Who's the throat to choke here? Because we can talk about somebody should do this, somebody should do that. We can go to CPA, we have to do this. Who is going to be the throat to choke on this stuff? Who is going to be the responsible party? Who's that name? That's what I'm looking for. Because I got all that part, Jim, where you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. Who's the responsible person?
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a wonderful topic. Peter DeBacher, also a member of the planning board. And indeed, it's a matter of who's going to grab that bull by that horn. And it doesn't matter how much you talk about it. I've heard about it for many, many, many years. The thing is, there are private individuals who do it and seem to be able to make money out of it. So if there's money to be made, then it's either them or it's the town. And I think there are huge parcels, huge tracts that could become a contiguous and a continuous pieces of land that the town could acquire instead of it going to private entities, where it could be developed with the proper zoning and the proper zoning districts to then become developed parcels of land, and there is absolutely no need for it. And I too we're preaching to some of the choirs here, not all of them, but I think the town, somebody, I think almost ought to be held accountable for not taking that initiative, because others do, and once it becomes owners known, i.e. somebody else takes it, the town loses the opportunity to acquire it by themselves for a minimal amount of money. And if I may be so bold, we had a 24-acre parcel for recharge, and I'm speaking now as the chairman of the wastewater committee. That was basically available for free and could have been preserved as a piece of land that had virtually no impact on that area. Again, somebody needs to do it, and I think we ought to force somebody to do it, even through an article at some town meeting sometime. End of my discussion.
Thank you.
Mary Maslowski, also on the planning board. Just one question with respect to the owners unknown properties. Has anyone, as a part of that identification, does anyone cross-reference that with tax title properties? Because that's another means of acquisition for the town, is you can always seek tax title foreclosure, which is certainly a different process than eminent domain. Doesn't have the litigation. It's foreclosed. It's done through land court. And can usually be done fairly, if not quickly, but with limited funds on behalf of the town. So that was one question. I also didn't know, does the town often receive rights of first refusal on, for example, the cranberry bogs? So are those typically like agricultural restriction and that then come to you for the 180-day review period?
We have seen one. We actually had one very recently.
Okay.
I don't know how common it is, but I have seen them, and we did receive a notice of one most recently off of Oliver Snow Road, and that is connecting to a lot of old cranberry bogs that are just to the east of there. So whether or not it's for every single one or it's a few,
Understood.
I don't know.
If they've
Yeah.
received the tax break, then
That's right.
then you get the right of first refusal. And,
Exactly.
And I just wondered whether that was something that we had been able to take advantage of as a town, where you had said so many of the cranberry bogs had gone fallow.
So for this one in particular, this notice went to myself and either I or it was sent automatically to the Real Estate and Open Space Committee for immediate, consideration for that. So, as far as the other bogs, sometimes they go to the Harwich Conservation Trust has also been integral with preserving some of those as well.
Just curious on
Yeah.
that.
I don't know the answer to your first question.
That's okay.
Though, about the cross-referencing with tax title.
It just may be a suggestion.
Thank you.
Along the way, because then it's another way to know and identify whether somebody's actually paying the bill. And if nobody's paying the bill, then you're more likely to go down an easier path.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you all very much for attending. We really appreciated it.
We really appreciate your input as well.
Yeah,
It's very
absolutely.
helpful.